What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, here with another review, this time of the LG V10. Yes, finally getting into the smartphone game on my channel by popular demand. The V10 is LG's newest flagship release and is really quietly one of the best smartphones on the market right now. Spoiler alert if you hadn't known that already. I've had my V10 for a little over a month now, I'd say, and as an iPhone user, I really just wanted to take the time to get used to this phone so I can give you all a proper review of my overall experience with it instead of just putting out a rushed review to get it out there for more views when I first got it. Also, make sure you're subscribed if you want to see my upcoming video on the LG V10 compared to an iPhone in case you're an iOS user and you're maybe thinking of making the jump to Android, so be on the lookout for that. Starting off, the V10 is a beautiful phone. You can pick it up in a range of soft palette colors like a cream beige, rose gold, opal blue, a light teal, and black, which is the model I have. It features a nice stealth look throughout with thin side bezels that meet a nice curved stainless steel side and has a very nice grippy rubberized texture on the back. It has this slight knurled feel to it for helping you hold it in your hand, which is great due to the overall size of this phone. It is dubbed Duraskin, which is supposed to make this phone much less susceptible to damage if you drop it compared to your normal smartphone. It is also military standard 810G certified. On the back we have dual LED flash, the camera and the infrared proximity sensor up top with the volume rocker and power button below. Yes, these are the only buttons on the phone. Nothing on the side, nothing on the front, just 3 tactile buttons on the back side, which are going to provide a very nice and easy to reach accessibility with your fingers resting in that area when you're using it. The volume buttons on top and bottom of the power button are very easy to press, and this follows the design language similar to past LG phones, like the LG G3 and the G4. And the power button also sports a fingerprint reader this time around to rival other phones on the market, but more on this later. Now before we move on, the back is also removable, which is awesome. This allows you to change the batteries if one's getting low, you can just swap them out, and you also have micro SD expandable storage if you want to add a little bit more memory to your phone if you're a frequent photo or video taker here. We have an IR blaster on top with a microphone, and a second microphone, a speaker grill, a headphone jack, and a micro USB port on the bottom. Now it's pretty obvious, this phone is big. We have a huge 5.7-inch display that makes this phone slightly bigger than an iPhone 6s Plus even, which is pretty big as it is. With a 1440 by 2560 resolution, you'll have a hard time spotting any pixels with a display as nice as this one. Colors pop out at you for a surprisingly great image for an LCD display. And honestly, at first, I thought it was an OLED phone because the deep blacks it displayed were very nice and sharp. It's a very bright screen, easy to see outdoors, and even features a second display. Yes, this is one of the newest features LG is boasting for this phone, as the 1040 by 160 pixel display up top is added to give you a little bit more real estate. It pretty much gives you 24/7 access to quick media controls, frequently used apps, quick access to settings, you can read app alerts and boot up the camera or the flashlight, even when the phone's display is off. This is pretty much what they were trying to achieve here. More access to your phone without you having to actually even have it on. It's pretty cool, yes, but I found it more of a gimmick than anything. Now is this useful if I want to quickly boot up another app or have my Twitter notifications pop up without me having to sacrifice the main display? Yes, that's actually very helpful. But it really doesn't seem like a new thing that would be a deciding factor if you're thinking of picking up this phone. Don't get me wrong, it's still cool to see the time and the date without having to turn the phone on. I can just pick it up and easily glance at it. But I really feel like they're going a little bit overboard, making this seem like a new huge feature when it's really not. But anyways, this is my only real quarrel with the phone, so let's move on to the good stuff. I don't really need to give you a review of the whole stock Android interface experience and all the unlimited great customization things you can do with it, but the LG V10 feels faster than ever. All these scrolling animations and switching between apps was very smooth. I've had tons of apps opened up at once, and I never really experienced a stutter or hiccup or lag between hopping back and forth from app to app. And that is all helped by the 4GB of RAM. Gaming was also very smooth itself. With that Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 chip inside, I really can't ask for a better experience. You couple how quick and responsive the phone is with that beauty of a screen, and you will be more than satisfied with whatever you're doing. Now with all that stuff going on, this phone does take a pretty normal hit when it comes to the battery life. That's kind of expected. I would say with an average everyday use, I got a little bit less than a full day's worth out of it, which will completely vary again depending on what you're doing, what apps you're using, what functions you use the most. It did perform better than my iPhone 6's battery life, however, so I was able to notice the extra juice that I hadn't been used to. And also, as we mentioned, with the removable battery being an option now, you can always just buy another battery to carry around with you in case you're going to be out for an extended period of time, and it beats carrying around one of those battery banks and a cable. The phone also does benefit from its Qualcomm Quick Charge, where you can get around a 50% battery charge in a half an hour. Now, in the beginning, I talked about their new addition of the fingerprint reader on the back power button. And I've heard a lot of mixed feedback about this, with people complaining that it isn't always the most accurate, or it takes a few tries. And then I've heard completely opposite things, like it's the quickest fingerprint scanner they've ever tried. And for me, I'll have to agree with the latter. Every single time I set my finger on this scanner, it instantly unlocked my phone. This is a setting that you don't always even have to have turned on if you don't want to deal with it, but it does add another level of security to your phone. You could still do things like set a pin to unlock it, draw a pattern, or pick a knock code, but obviously the fingerprint scanner will allow you and only you to access your phone. Setting it up was pretty simple. You press your finger on the button numerous times until it has a full reading of your pointer finger's print. Now, yes, there were a few times where, I had to pick my finger up and retry again for it to unlock, but it was like 1 out of 20 tries maybe, and for me, it has always been a really quick process. So now let's talk about the camera, and honestly, I can make an entirely separate video on the extent of this guy because there is just so much you can do with it, but I'll keep it as concise as possible for this review. The LG V10 sports probably the best smartphone on any camera ever, and that's a legitimate claim. It's rocking a 16 megapixel camera with an aperture of f1.8 and a dual front-facing camera with 5 megapixels. You can shoot video in 4K, 1080p at 60 frames, and 120 frames at 720p resolution. Again, this can get really lengthy here, but now I'm going to talk about just the manual mode because it is extremely impressive. Pretty much anything you would want in a manual mode on a camera, you get and then some. Picture a DSLR's flexibility, and that is what we have here. Custom white balances for more accurate colors, manual focus, ISO and exposure control, shutter speed control, raw image capture, literally everything you would want. They even include a manual microphone mode, believe it or not, when you're in video, so you can pick up where the pickup pattern is going to be coming from, so you can really decide where the majority of the audio is going to get recorded, whether in front of you, you want to pick it up behind you, or even in the middle. It's just a really nice addition, and it's definitely a unique feature for a smartphone. We also have things like these self-timers, burst mode, panorama pictures, time lapses, image stabilization, and face detection. Now I know I said I'll be putting out a dedicated video with the LG against the iPhone, but here's a completely unaltered, unedited photo of a sunset taken on the LG V10 and the iPhone 6. This is how good the manual mode is, and it really speaks for itself. Earlier I mentioned there was a dual front-facing cameras. You can thank the whole influx of the selfie generation for that. With these dual front-facing cameras, it gives you a much wider shot to fit you and your friends in the frame, and is a much more appropriate angle for a front-facing camera that isn't just zoomed entirely into your face. But all in all, it is extremely impressive, and I could probably talk about it for another hour if I had the time to get into all the specifics of the camera, but for now, let's move on. And one of the last main points I want to make in this review, before we start to sum it up, is their integrated hi-fi DAC. Now for a smartphone, you get access to a pretty impressive headphone amplifier and a DAC for all you audiophiles out there who really want to push your audio listening experience to the next level. This is going to be a great addition to someone who is always listening to music with their headphones in, and I found it really made music come to life. I could push my music to its highest volume without it crackling or being distorted, and it just really sound great. I was very impressed with this DAC, and once you enable it, it's going to make up for that lack of the external speaker, because that poor little guy on the bottom really isn't the best for blasting music at all. This hi-fi DAC is something that many people aren't talking about in their reviews, but I wanted to point it out because it's something pretty awesome and I wanted to share it with you guys. And that's about it. Altogether, you're getting a ton packed into this phone. The screen is amazing. The stock Android experience, while isn't what I would have booted onto this phone, is very buttery smooth. The addition of a removable battery and expandable storage is not only welcomed, but it is a rare feature that makes this phone one of the few that even allow that now. The camera is outstanding. Really, I can't stress this enough. With all the freedom you have in manual mode, your inner photographer and videographer will shine once you get a hold of the V10. But I do want to reiterate real quick some of the cons, because this phone isn't perfect. Then again, nothing is. But again, that second display is cool, but having it up top makes it much harder to reach as more of a gimmick than a selling point, I think. Since the phone is so big, it is on the heavier side and it's rather difficult to hold comfortably, especially if you're trying to easily one-hand it. And lastly, it kind of annoyed me that the dual window mode inside has some limitations. As an iPhone user, I was really looking forward to this because I don't have that on an iPhone, but there are certain apps you can't use with one another, like Chrome and Instagram. Come on, I just wanted to point that out because again, I'm not used to this and I wanted the dual window mode to be a feature to shine, but I noticed its limitations. But altogether, if I didn't mention anything in the cons, it's probably because I love it. I really love almost everything about this phone, and for me, the pros far outweigh the cons. I think not only is this one of the most underrated phones of 2015, it is quietly one of the best, and it's definitely a phone that should be considered if you're thinking of upgrading or switching over from an iPhone. Well, that's going to wrap it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed my review of the LG V10, one of the first smartphone reviews on my channel. Definitely took me a while, but I really appreciate what this phone offers, and like I said, one of the best phones of the year. Definitely pick it up if you're thinking of switching over or you just want a new phone to bring in the new year. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up to show your support. Also, let me know you want to see more smartphone videos on my channel. If you have any questions, you can comment down below or hit me up on Twitter at randomfrankp. You can always follow me on there. And lastly, guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Got a ton of videos coming your way. You're not going to want to miss out. Well, I'm Random Frank P. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.